All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023, and of course, we just finished with week 4 of the NFL, so it's only natural, it's only like the right move to go on to week 5 and see how our picks do this week. Last week we did really good, we'll see that in a second. We went 12-4, so, looking pretty good. That's like our best week in like over a year. I don't think we went 12-4 at all last season, so that's pretty embarrassing. But hey, it's finally a good week. Things are looking a little better, so before we jump into week 5, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and most importantly, make sure you leave your picks down below. Who you think is going to win this week, what you think of my picks, whatever you want to leave in a comment. It's totally cool. How you're doing on your picks overall, like I am, just whatever. So make sure you leave those down there. Thank you very much for doing that. It helps the video out a ton. That's like the only time I'll talk about YouTube stuff in the video, so I apologize for that, but it does help the video. So leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your picks down below. All right, pick'em record, just as we said, we went 12-4 last week, best week in a while. That brings us to 40-24 overall. I think we're 40 out of 64 total. I think that's the total number of games. So, about 62.5%. We're doing pretty good, slowly getting up there. Haven't had a bad week yet. We're hoping to avoid that this week. So, week 5 coming up, over a quarter of the way through the season. Oh yeah, I forgot. Week 5, we have bye weeks. So, the Browns, Chargers, Seahawks, and Buccaneers are off this week, so if you're a fan of one of these teams, maybe you want to watch like the Ravens and Steelers lose, and maybe the Bengals lose, maybe the Chargers, or maybe the Raiders, maybe the maybe the Chiefs and the Broncos lose, and you know how this goes. The Seahawks division lose, and the Bucks, and whatever. You know how it goes. I'm not going to do that for every team. Anyway, so those teams are off, so enjoy the week off. So now we have Thursday Night Football. And it's an instant classic type game. Everybody's excited. I think they're writing, like the presses are all stoked and ready. This is game of the year material here, with the Chicago Bears taking on the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are favored by 6.5 with an over-under of 44.5. The Bears are coming off a really weird game versus the Broncos, in which they led like 28-7 at some point, 23, and then they just kind of blew it. So, excellent job on if they're trying to tank or anything, but weird game. Bad team. And then the Commanders had a really close game versus the Eagles, so there's no way in hell I'm not picking the Commanders in this one. If you think the Bears will win, that's cool, but I don't think it's this game. Bears literally might go 0-17, save for that Panthers game. That's the only game where it's like, well, they could beat the Panthers. But yeah, this game, the Commanders should win. Thursday night home game. Chicago on a short week might be a disaster class incoming. All right, let's go to the actual games that matter. The Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Buffalo Bills in London, so this will be at 9:30 a.m. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 48. Jaguars are coming off a nice win, 23-7 versus the Falcons, also in London. And the Bills are coming off their 48-20 stomping of the Dolphins, so in which Josh Allen was at. Hey, there we go. There's the burp. That's good luck. But in which Josh Allen had a perfect passer rating, looked really good. Everything was really solid for them. So right now we have a Bills offense that's humming along. The last 3 games, I think they've scored 38, 38, and 48. So I'm guessing the Bills offense is rolling. The Bills are rolling. They're playing really good. Whereas the Jaguars have been kind of like inconsistent this year. They haven't looked really that great on offense like throughout the year. They've had moments where they look good, but it hasn't been consistent. Defensively has been okay. But again, it's just that they don't feel like the Jaguars of last year, where they like this game would be something that they could win, especially like in London, kind of like they're home away from home. But again, it's just I haven't really seen something from the Jaguars yet this year that indicates that they could stop the Bills right now. That look like a total just dominant football team. I'm not a Buffalo Bills fan, but they literally look like the best team in the AFC right now, by like quite a bit. So, I don't know. Jaguars, could they get the upset here? Yeah, because again, they're in London for the second week. They're kind of acclimated. But it's just like, you kind of got to look at like what they each did last week. And it's like, man, they shut the Dolphins offense to 20 points. And the Jaguars offense has been struggling this year. Are they even going to be able to do much against the Bills defense? That could be adding Von Miller back this week. Ooh. So, yeah, that's kind of why I'm going Bills. Could go the other way. By the way, all the lines are included from FanDuel. They don't really influence the way I pick. I just include them so we know who's favored, and because some people like to know what like the lines are and yada yada yada. Houston Texans take on the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are favored by 1.5 points with an over-under of 41.5. I'm guessing this is because Atlanta's at home and Desmond Ridder has this weird home streak where he just doesn't lose at home games. As we just talked about, the Falcons are coming off a 23-7 loss. The Texans are coming off a beatdown of the Steelers. They killed them 30-6. That was an incredible win for Stroud and the Texans. So I'm going to give them a little love. I think they're going to win this game. My issue, with the Falcons, I think teams are starting to kind of key on it because, again, this is back-to-back week for the Falcons. I think they scored 6 versus Detroit and 7 versus the Jaguars. So you kind of can start to look at like, all right, the Falcons do have a problem on offense. They are super one-dimensional. If you take away the run, they literally can't throw the football. So, you know, teams are starting to just key off and take away the run, and now Atlanta just can't throw the ball unless they just randomly figure out how to throw this week. Seems like the Texans, who have a pretty good defense from what we've been seeing the first couple weeks, can probably just shut down their run game and then, you know, make them throw it. And then the Texans seem very capable to throw the ball. So despite Atlanta playing good defense so far this year, because they have, I think Houston can do just enough to win this game. Because Atlanta is super one-dimensional. So I could see Houston with DeMeco Ryans planning to take away the run, make them throw it, and kind of just steal the game in Atlanta. Again, there's a blueprint to beat the Falcons, and it's very, very obvious. Revenge game for the Lions here. Lions take on the Panthers at home. Lions are 8.5 point favorites with an over-under of 45. Lions beat the Packers 34-20. Just a beatdown on Thursday night. And then the Panthers played a very close game versus the Vikings, 21-13, which is kind of a statement on the Vikings, I think. Hold on, I'm taking a drink real quick. Yeah, Detroit should be able to win this game. I don't know what happened when they played Carolina last year. I think this is going to be a good revenge game. One of the things Carolina does to score the ball really well and like to do anything is run the ball and kind of pass the ball with this really shoddy offensive line. And Detroit really actually has a solid run defense this year. I think they've only given up like 230, 250 yards. They have the best run defense in football, I think. As far as like yards and all that are concerned. So I'm guessing the Lions are going to utilize the fact that the Panthers have a bad offensive line, get a lot of pressure on the Panthers, eliminate the run game, so they kind of have to throw it, which isn't really the strength of the Panthers. Home game, so the Lions are going to have this massive home field advantage. Ford Field's insane this year, so I don't know if a young team like the Panthers are quite ready for that environment. Yeah, Lions should win in a revenge game. And the Lions are going to be out for blood in this game because of last year. If they'd have won this game last year, they probably are a playoff team, but they doomed themselves. So look out, Carolina. You're in for what could be considered a rough game. Here's a surprisingly good game. The Titans take on the Colts. Colts are 1.5 point favorites with an over-under of 42.5. I've been impressed with Indy this year. I really like the way that they've been playing. They are coming off a loss 29-23 to the Rams, but they did come back and take that game to overtime, so that's impressive. The Titans just destroyed the Bengals. Yeah, we're not calling them Bengals anymore for a while. They're back to bungling it all up. Joe Burrow is really like Macaulay Culkin in his like 20s, you know? Oof. You know, all those like weird pictures of Macaulay Culkin. That's the Joe Burrow we're at right now. He's at that point of the Culkin career. He's no longer the lovable kid. I'm just anyway. The Titans won 27-3 versus the Bengals. So sorry about the coughing. It's just I don't know. Just sometimes my throat gets a little stuffy. Well, who cares? Anyway, this game. I have no idea what the Titans are this year. One week they look bad, one week they look good. So I'm kind of nervous I might have picked them on a week where they look bad. But I went and looked at the recent history between these two teams, and it seems like Mike Vrabel just kind of dominates the Colts. They've won like 4 or 5 in a row, and it's just kind of like this weird domination of another team. It seems like Mike Vrabel maybe doesn't like the Colts. Kind of likes to key off and beat them. And it seems like they kind of have the defense to do that this year. A very young indie offense, maybe running into a really weird experience, like a really weird game where they don't have the experience to beat the Titans, like coaching experience. They have player experience, not long term, but like recent success over the Colts. I don't know. It feels like the Titans can win this game, especially if they play like they did against the Bengals. The Colts are, like I said, Colts seem actually a little bit better than I thought this year, but I don't know if they could win this one. They could win the game later in the year with more, a little bit more time under their belts, but I feel like this is a game they lose, mainly on experience. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the Giants, the New York Giants take on the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are favored by 10.5 with an over-under of 49.5. Dolphins, as we talked about, they lost 48-20 to the Bills, so they're going to be out for revenge. And the Giants just lost one of the uglier games of the year, 24-3 to the Seahawks. And I know the Patriots lost way worse score-wise, but that game felt way worse. That feels like a game where Daniel Jones might no longer be the Giants starter, or like they're just kind of done with him. It looks weird. Yeah, I don't know. That was bad from Daniel Jones. There's no way you can pick the Giants in this game. Defensively, they could probably keep it close because it does look like the Giants have a decent defense, but offensively, I don't even think the Dolphins' defense can make the Giants look good. The real question is, do the Dolphins win by 11 points? I don't know if they can win by that many, but I really wouldn't be shocked. Jeez. That's a rough game to get if you're a Giants fan. The New Orleans Saints take on the New England Patriots. The Patriots are 1.5 point favorites with an over under at 39.5. Patriots played a bad game, didn't win. The Cowboys won by 35, and the New Orleans Saints lost to the Bucs 26-9. This game's tough to pick, but basically, I'm looking at the Saints offense, I'm looking at the Patriots defense, and I'm going, I don't know if the Saints will be able to do much against that. They struggle against the Bucs defense. Their quarterback situation is abysmal due to the Carr injury, and if Jameis has to play, the Patriots should probably be able to tee off on him. Even with the Patriots having a bunch of injuries on their defense, I mean, as bad as the Cowboys did win by, it doesn't seem, it was like 2 defensive touchdowns and short field. Like, it seemed like it was a lot of field goals. So, I mean, the Patriots defensively didn't play that bad in a 38-3 loss. It was really the offense and a lot of field goals. But so I could see the Patriots defense kind of getting it right at home, shutting down the Saints, and their kind of banged up offense. I don't know. So I like the Patriots to win a defensive game. Their offense probably looks a hell of a lot better than it did against the Cowboys. Not much, but I'll take the Patriots in a 6-point weird game in which special teams is probably important in defense. So the Ravens play the Steelers. The Ravens are 4.5 point favorites with an over under of 38.5. Ravens are coming off a 28-3 snubbing of the Browns. They beat them pretty good, and we already discussed the Steelers getting beat 30-6. Yeah, the Steelers are probably going to be without Kenny Pickett. He's got, I think, a concussion or a knee injury or something like that. I can't remember which one it was, but he's probably out for a minute. And the Ravens are looking pretty good. They're probably going to get a couple of their guys back. We'll see when the injury reports come out. But as far as this goes, it just feels like the Ravens are going to win. The offensive line for the Steelers is bad. The offensive system doesn't seem to be working in Pittsburgh. So ultimately, it's kind of just looking at this going, well, they didn't fire up Canada. They didn't fix the offensive line in a weekend. So I can't imagine the Steelers scoring much, and the Ravens look really good right now on the defensive side and on the offensive side, even with all the injuries. So I'm going to have to go with the Ravens in this one. Tough rivalry game, though, for the Ravens. So the Steelers could keep it close just because they do play in these rivalry games rather well. But, I mean, they're down to like Mitch Trubisky and a bad line, and Matt Canada. Anyway, let's go to the 4 o'clock games. There's 4 of these. The Cincinnati Bengals take on the Arizona Cardinals. The Bengals are somehow favored by 3 with an over-under of 44.5. We've already gone over the Bengals. They lost 27-3. The Cardinals played an okay game against the 49ers, losing 35-16. It's weird when you say an okay game. I didn't think they'd do that well. The first part of that game wasn't too bad. So basically, I'm going with the upset pick here, I guess. This is my upset pick of the weekend, even though I think a lot of people are going to be picking the Cardinals over the Bengals. Because if you watch both teams play this year, the Cardinals are playing better football than the Bengals on every side of the ball. Maybe except defense, because the Bengals have been okay at defense. But yeah, like with Joe Burrow playing the way he is, clearly there's something wrong. I don't know if he's injured, has something going on upstairs. The Bengals offense is just like weirdly off, and they're going to need a game or two to get going. But right now, I don't see it like getting right. Like there was a point last year when they looked bad, and then they had that game against the Cowboys where they suddenly looked good. We haven't seen that yet from them. So until we see that, I could see this Cardinals defense kind of giving them some fits, and the Cardinals offense being pesky and staying in the game, and then just kind of winning it at the end. Yeah, this feels like an upset game, especially if you think the Bengals are going to win. I can't pick the Bengals right now, man. They've looked so bad this year. This might be a pretty good game. The Eagles take on the Rams. The Eagles are favored by 4.5 with an over-under of 50. The Eagles both these teams played overtime games. The Rams won 29-23. We already talked about that in overtime. And then the Eagles beat the Commanders 34-31 in overtime. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. I like the Eagles to win this one. The thing about this is, like, the Rams feel like a super streaky, kind of like inconsistent team this year, where like we watched them lose 19-16 to the Bengals, and then they beat the Colts 29-26, or 29-23. It's kind of like one week they look like they can score or move the ball efficiently, one week they can't. And I think when you're like that kind of like inconsistent team going up against like a team like the Eagles, who may not be playing like at their A1 level, but they're still scoring with relative ease. They're still playing pretty solid defense. I don't know if you have a good shot at winning a game when you're as inconsistent as the Rams are, especially since like the Rams line is really bad. So I can imagine the Eagles defensive front being all over that and kind of shutting down the Rams offense via pressures, sacks, and just not allowing any kind of a run game to develop. Yeah, and like the Rams defense, they may be good in like getting after the quarterback this year, but I mean the Eagles offense has been rather solid. They should be able to put themselves like up for a good game, especially since they're going up against what has been a decent Rams defense, so they should be kind of focused and ready to play. So I like the Eagles in this one. Could be a really good one though. I kind of like a really good close game. Ugh. I don't really care about this game. The Jets take on the Broncos. Broncos are favored by 2.5 with an over-under of 43.5. I'm going to go with the Jets. Jets have pretty solid defense this year. The Broncos have one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. So that could lead to the Jets' kind of shaky offense that actually looked okay last week to do some damage, especially running the ball with Breece Hall and company. I can imagine the Jets having quite the field day running the football. Because, again, the Jets do have good running backs, so they should be able to run with Cook and Breece Hall. Meanwhile, I don't know if the Broncos offense will be able to do much against the Jets defense, and I don't think the Broncos defense will be able to stop the Jets running game. So give me the Jets in an upset like 23-17 or something like that, even though it'll probably be way worse. Kansas City Chiefs take on the Minnesota Vikings. Chiefs are favored by 5.5 with an over-under of 52.5. We've pretty much gone over every team's score at this point. We know the Chiefs won 23-20 versus the Jets. Vikings won 21-13 versus the Panthers. Basically, with the way the Vikings defense has been playing this year, I don't really know if they'll be able to stop the Chiefs offense. The Vikings also have just been playing really bad football, not like statistically bad, but just like weirdly bad. Like they'll have like weird, like very untimely turnovers, and if they're doing that against the Chiefs, they really probably won't stand much of a chance. I don't know. I just feel like this is a pretty obvious game. Can the Vikings keep it close? Yeah, I think they'll actually like keep it weirdly close, especially since they can do really good in the second half and tend to like keep in games in the second half. So I'd imagine they're able to do that in this game, but ultimately with the way that they've been playing it, like they almost blew it against the Panthers. It was a lot closer than it should have been. Like, you know what I mean? Like even if they're leading in this, it feels like they're going to wind up blowing it late. So give me the Chiefs over the Vikings. Sunday Night Football. This is the best game of the weekend. Dallas Cowboys take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are favored by 3.5 with an over-under of 45. Cowboys coming off a big win, 38-3 over the Pats. 49ers, as we already talked about with both of these, 35-16 over the Cardinals. Number one advantage, obviously, at home. I think the 49ers also have a coaching advantage. I think the 49ers defense is better than the Cowboys defense. And I think the 49ers offensively right now are playing better football than the Cowboys are, or at least more like consistently better football, right? We could also look at common opponents. The 49ers destroyed the Cardinals and the Cowboys did not. The one loss. So basically, I just think that the 49ers offensively can do just enough to stave off that Cowboys defense, enough to eliminate and neutralize the pass rush with Christian McCaffrey playing the way he is, with everything just, with the 49ers just seeming like every week somebody else steps up and has a huge week at the receiver position, or at just some random skill position. So again, you can kind of see where the 49ers could still have a good offense this week, especially if they can block their pass rush, kind of neutralize Micah Parsons, and utilize, their weapons that they have. The 49ers defensively have been kind of just clamping people up this year. Again, even in that win for against the Patriots, they had 2 defensive scores. So minus 14, that puts them at 24, and then a shitload of field goals in that game. So the offense really wasn't like super sharp. They had trouble scoring again, putting the ball in the end zone, but they could move the ball down the field. It's just they got stopped at certain points and just seemingly were hitting a lot of field goals. And I think that's something, if you're a Cowboys fan and you're looking at this game, you have to keep your eye on. Whereas if the Cowboys had been cashing in a bunch of touchdowns versus the Patriots, I wouldn't have this concern. It's like, well, especially since the Patriots were down 4 of their corners in that game. So they were without Jack Jones, Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones, and Christian Gonzalez went down very early. So just something to keep an eye on with the Cowboys is why were they hitting so many field goals? Why did they, score wouldn't have been as lopsided without the 2 defensive touchdowns. It's 24-3. That's a lot, that's still bad, but it's not as big a blowout if you take away the defensive scores, which I'm only doing to point out that the offense wasn't as prolific in a blowout as you might expect. Whatever. I don't know. So that's kind of why I like the 49ers. I think defensively they'll shut down the Cowboys offense a little bit, and this is the kind of game we'll get. All right, Monday Night Football. I think this game sucks. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. Green Bay Packers take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Packers are favored by 1.5 with an over under of 44.5. The Raiders look pretty good against the Chargers last week. They only lost by 7 with a rookie quarterback. Packers, of course, just kind of got boat raced by the Lions, but that's kind of to be expected. I like the Packers to win this game. I've liked the way that they've played football more this year than I've liked the way the Raiders have. And if the Raiders are going to be starting a rookie again this week, I like the Packers a little bit more. Yeah. I feel like the Packers will win this game. I don't have a ton for this one. I just think the Packers are going to win. Haven't been too impressed with the Raiders this year, but that's okay. All right, so that's pretty much that, guys. It's a little bit shorter of a video this week, obviously, with 2 less games. So, yeah, that's it. Week 5 done in the drain, down the hatch, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave your picks down below. All that YouTube mumbo jumbo got you at the end here. But yeah, we went 12-4 last week, 40-24 overall. Hoping to get to another good solid 10+ win week with only 14 games, so we got to be a little bit tighter. Yeah, but thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you have a good rest of your day, night, morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening. That time between 3 and 7 when it's not I don't even know what to call that. It's not afternoon. Afternoon's I don't know. Have a good one whenever you do listen. Thank you so much. Go Lions, go Tigers, and of course it's always go Patriots. And I'm going to try to end this with my mind. Didn't work. Oh God, I'm controlling the mouse with my mind. Oh my God.